the door to the ancestors. The sun sets in the west. For our people, wow, the sun sets, it goes to sleep, the world goes to sleep. And the door to the spirit, the door to the ancestors is opened in dreams, in visions. And the spirits come out at night. You want to talk to the spirits, they come out at night. They come out of the dark caves outside and they run around and they eat guava. And they float around and they're going to talk to you. Okay? And some of them come in the form of the bat. And so that west, the owl, teaches us something. It teaches us to open up the doorway to our spirits. It teaches us to reach out to the grandfathers. It opens the door. The grandfathers are standing there and saying, want to talk to me? Come on. We're here. We're not that far away. In that darkness, you'll see us. You'll find us. We're here. We're ready to talk to you. And later on, I'll tell you how you do that. And then the north, the door to the heart. It opens up the door to the heart when we turn to the north. The seasons. It's a season of healing. How many times in winter time don't we all decide? Those are the times when we decide we're going to get well, we're going to heal, we're going to go to the gym, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Don't we do that? Okay? But that winter weather, and you say, well, there wasn't any winter in the Caribbean. Yes, there was. Hold up here. Yeah, there was. You see, the stars and everything, that doesn't change. It might not come in with snow. It came in, that wind came in. And our ancestors knew when they saw the herons coming in from the north. This is why it's the heron. The herons would come in from the north in the wintertime to the islands. They would go that way. They would go south to the islands. Where were they coming from? They were coming from the north, especially the big white ones. Okay? To hang around the mangles. The mangles are warm. The mangle is a Taino word. They be hanging around the mangles, you know, with their long skinny legs. Come on, man, let's go hang out. You know?
It's so pretty.
They would come and they would open up and we're hanging out here, man. And they would stick their heads. Herons do that, right? They stick their heads way down there in the water, and they're always finding something new. What does that tell us on the side? From the north, it tells us we can find new ways to heal ourselves. Time to reflect. We can find a million ways to heal ourselves. And there's medicine all around us. And we're mangle supposed to be a swamp. Teaches us. And that's why we, in the Bohio Atabei, we honor the heron, the spirit of the heron, and what it teaches us. And it also opens the vortex to the medicines of the grandfathers. Opens up that vortex, and that's important. So we have a song for that. To the Guanara. So maybe I'll do that song. So as I turn and I spoke about them, and I said to the east, I say to the Guanaguao, Womatun, thank you for your presence. Say that. Thank you. And then I turn to the south and I say, thank you for the spirit of the south. Thank you for all that you gave us, Condor. Thank you for helping us clean up the mess. Help us to understand that we need to clean up the mess in our lives. And we can do it. And then we turn to the west and we look and we say, Mukai. Or Matun, which means thank you. Haham, which means thank you. Thank you. Thank you for opening the door to the grandfathers. So we can talk to them. And how do we talk to them? The memory is written in our DNA. It's meditation. You sit and you meditate in a quiet space. And you wake up in your blood the memory of your ancestors. Wake it up. And you chant. grandfathers. I want to understand this. Help me. Bring it to me in a vision as I sleep. Or give it to me any way you want. But let me find what I'm looking for in this darkness here in my mind right now. Okay. Penetrate. I want to penetrate that. And that is what this mukara will help you to do. You see, you can do it. You can do it. Wake up the memory that's written in your DNA. And if you don't believe that it's written in there, then you're going to contradict science, because recently they just discovered, or they say they discovered. Funny how we know these things, but somebody else discovers it. They discovered that, oh, DNA has memory. It remembers. What? You're kidding me. We knew that. Then we turn towards the north, and we're in that season now. Winter. And I say, thank you. Thank you, Yaboa. Yaboa being the name. Thank you, Yaboa. Thank you for teaching me. Show me the new ways to heal. Show me. Have the grandfathers teach me about medicines. I want to know. And everywhere. So, and then we turn to earth and we say, Bohio Atabei, Suimako, Ikikubaba, Apito. All her names, we call them out. Thank you. May I walk gently upon you. As women, we're reminded of that in our cycles all the time. Okay? And she does what she has to do. She cleanses. She rearranges herself. Not rearrange myself. Okay? And she's constantly giving birth. New trees, new flowers, new oceans, new waters. All kinds of things are coming out of her all the time. You can walk down the street and see the sidewalk, and Itikuhu Baba pushes herself through the cracks of the sidewalk, and you see the green little plants and flowers coming out. You walk and you say, oh, wow, what are you doing? It's growing right out of there. Albito. Another name. What is albito? Wow. Essence of life. The air itself. Wait a minute. Essence. It's a beautiful name. We call BB is a short for grandmother. The real name for grandmother is Ata, but we've adopted BB, which actually means mother, but we've adopted it and used it. Bohio Atabei, Bohio Apito, Mamona, another name. Mamona. And who is Mamona? The mother of God. Okay? The mother of life. What? The mother of God, yes. God has a mother. Hold on, right? Suimako. I even like the sound of it. Suimako. Everything around you. So life itself, all of that, we had 5 names. We would call her, and we would say, and we understood her. Why? Because if, like I said, if you're in a place for thousands of years, you better learn what's around you. You know what the trees do. You know what the cycles are. You know what the wind is telling you. You understand when you look at the stars what time, what season it is. Because you learned it. So you live with that flow. And if it's an uninterrupted flow, it's even better. It's even better. You understand that there's a wind that comes from the west, and there's a wind that comes from the north, and there's a wind that comes from the east, and there's a wind that comes from the south. And each one of those brings in a different energy, because you feel it and you know it, according to the seasons, according to the times. You know, you understand it. And because you understand that, you know how to live with everything that's alive around you. And you have respect for it. And you also know there is no death. Everything gets recycled. You are recycled. We are recycled. I don't know how long, because I'm not too keen on how long it took Einstein to discover that matter does not destroy itself. It just rearranges itself. But we knew that. We were primitive, but we knew that. And so that created a society where woman was important, okay? And everyone in that society had a role and understood that role. Understood what they had to do to keep the harmony and the balance.
Why don't you sing a song, Take a Break?
You want me to sing a song?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I get caught up in
I
my
know,
you
that's
know?
why.
Isn't that cool? And so when we do the 4 directions, which you're talking about, so we do the 4 directions. So I'm going to wipe it off and see if you can do it. I'm going to do it one more time just for you. So I go low, put my mouth in. Like if I'm eating a lemon, I don't like it. Push your lips. Alright, I'm going to wipe it off and let's see if you can do it.
When you have a lot of those together, they sound really beautiful. This is an indigenous mindset,
Next time I see you
right?
in the summer or something.
In a village, okay, everyone ate. Because the chief made sure, the leader made sure that everyone in that community had food to eat. And when people went to hunt, they would hunt together. They would go and gather, they would plant, and they would bring everything. And it was put in this big place, which is called the cane, and then it was dispensed accordingly.
So we'll practice more, okay?
And if someone was sick, the entire community was coming to see what they could do to help. A lot of those habits lingered into our society in those of us that were born in the 40s or whatever, or like my mom who was born in very early. Those who were born in the 30s and the 20s. A lot of that stuff still lingered in the society. A lot of those habits were in the pueblo. If the lady next door, Doña Cambucha, needed food, Doña Petra would feed her.
Doña Petra is my mother's name.
She would feed her.
That's so funny she said that.
So
There she goes. Doña Petra's in the house.
exactly. So then she would feed them, okay? And if you had that, okay, she never went hungry. We also had the structure of our society was that way, and it was so we had the chief, who was chosen by the women, by the way. You cannot become a chief unless your grandmother. You know, they would see the children when the children when they were born, and they would say, well, that one could probably be a chief and about here. So they would choose the chief or the leader. But the leader of the community was responsible for taking care of his community, and he worked alongside them. It wasn't like we have a king today that sits in a throne, and he's just like, I'm sitting up here with my staff, and you do for me, and you bend down and kiss my feet and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't that way. It wasn't that kind of leadership. And then he had his helpers, which were called the Tainos, and they came down and stepped lower. That was your upper class, so to speak. And you had in that class you had your medicine people, the people that actually would spend the time to learn the different plants and the different foods and the different medicines and how they could heal. And mind you, if you were a healer in the Taino movement and you didn't heal, you could get hurt. So you better know your stuff. Not like today, where people are calling themselves healers. And you go to a healer and you come out worse than when you went in. you did that in the Taino community, you were a dead healer. Because they weren't going to allow that, they would stone you. So you had to know your stuff.
It's like the recent thing that we saw where they were charging $500 to learn how to bless a womb.
Yeah. That's on
And
the
you get a
internet.
certificate.
Certificate. Womb blessings. You get a certificate. Melinda Gray is her name. And she is, of course, and you know, I mean, I do not aspire to saying white, black. I like to say dominant society. Dominant society, the people in dominant society who have the mentality of the conquest, or that mindset, of that Euro mindset, make a lot of money for healing and ceremonies and things like that. And you teach them your stuff, and then they go, and 2 days later, they're writing a book and they're making some money. And this woman is actually doing a womb, something that's been done for thousands of years by Native women. She must have learned a little bit something, I don't know. But she charges, you know, $500, you get a certificate. So they're making it a course. Like Taino 101. Like it's a course, I learned that. Taino 101, once I pass the course, I don't have to learn anything else. And being a Taino, that's not what it is. It's a way of life. Every moment of your life, you are walking. You are a spirit walking on this earth, and you must be aware of what you're doing and your relationship to everything that is on this earth. You have a relationship with everything that's alive. And you must maintain that harmony and that relationship and learn to respect it. Never mind the word love that's tossed all over the place. Respect. Out of respect comes the appreciation and the love. But if you can't respect it, and that's a very important concept. And that's a concept that if we were able to use that in this society today, in the society today, where there is so much racism, what's the concept of race? What's that all about? Who invented that? Even Native Americans have a problem with that. All of us, as Indians, because they're telling us, the government says, well, you got to have a certain quantum, a certain amount of blood in your blood to be qualified. We'll let you know if you can be Indian. We'll tell you if you're Indian. We'll give you a card too. We'll print out a card. We'll give it to you, and we'll tell you. In this society, we can't allow for that. We must turn that around and say no. We must take back society, and we must say, you know what? I'm claiming my sovereignty. As my right, I'm claiming my sovereignty. And that's an indigenous mindset. That's a native mindset. I don't believe that there's any native on this planet, or indigenous person on this planet, okay, that is in agreement with all the isms of the world. Political isms, socialism, communism, none of those isms work. They don't work for us. They don't. Every ism has a reason for being, and it doesn't work for us. It's not our concept. We have a lot to teach the world. And so as Taino people, if we go out there and we practice it, if we reclaim our sovereignty and say, yeah, well, I am who I am. I'm Boricua, so what about it? That's who I am. You can't tell me who I am. I know who I am. And you begin to dig into your culture and find out what your culture has to offer society today. You can do it, even though we don't live in villages, even though we don't live, okay? And how do you do that? In your community, you start with your family. Pay attention to your family, your kids, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, or whatever, you know? Look after each other. Learn to live more akin to nature. In this society, we accumulate a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. We don't know what to do with it. We can't use it. It's useless. I've been to places where I went to recently to visit a friend where everything that was in her, you know, she had more clothes in her closet and things had tickets on it. No, I can't wear it anymore. It's not even in style. Really? You know, when we live accumulating stuff, it's another form of greed. It's another form of greed. It is greed. And again, we've been conditioned to think that way. But how do we do all that in this society, like the isms and all that kind of stuff? Well, unfortunately, we have to find a way to go around that. So social justice, if you see something going on that's wrong, okay, and you say, you know what, racism is not good. Not a good thing. Think community, and join the community and try and stop that. Join them to try and stop that. Because if you don't, it's only going to grow. It's only going to get worse. And we need to look at that. If we know we all live on this planet, we don't try to all do something to take care of it, it's going to die. And you know, if Earth dies, it's not going to say, oh, I'm going to save you, and I'm going to save you, and I'm going to save you. No, we're all going. It doesn't discriminate. It's going to just say, it's over. So we need to get involved, okay? Because we have that responsibility. It's our responsibility to take care and to care. And there's no excuse for not doing it. We have to find ways. And it's important. And that's the only way. I admired Martin Luther King tremendously. And I admired Martin Luther King tremendously because of his approach. And one of his quotes is one of my favorite quotes, which was, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So because we wanted to talk about how, or you know, as they asked me, how we can take these Taino teachings and these indigenous mindsets and use them in today's world, and those are a lot of the ways that we can do it, is number one, by learning our history, number two, by also beginning to change our mindset, because it's all about the mind. You gotta work on it. It takes time, but you'll get there. Okay? And then you gotta connect. Your mind and your thoughts are an expression of your spirit. They're an expression of your spirit. And that helps to align you, to ground you. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. There's mechanisms that you can use, you know, by understanding, like I said, the directions, the energy that's coming, by meditating, so that you can reach for that wisdom. It's there, and use it. And you know, because we can't do it well. We can't row canoes anywhere anymore. You know, we can't go out and get the mango off the tree like we used to. Can't do those things. It sounds all really great, but we can't do that. And I'm pretty sure that if some of our people were alive today, they'd be using computers and so forth. But use them in a responsible way. Use the technology in a responsible way. Use what you do every day in a responsible way. And participate in these activities that are going to help the planet, that are going to help you grow, that are going to help the people. You have a responsibility, not just to yourself, but to 7 generations past, you know, to all the generations, the 4 that, you know, behind you, the 1 in front of you, and the 3 that are coming, or etc. You have a responsibility. Because if you know, it's important that you and take that indigenous mindset and use it. Empiecen a pensar como, think native, walk in balance. Think native, walk in balance. Indigenous people did that all the time. Now, if you have any questions.
We will take questions now,
Yes.
because I think
If you have questions.
gave you a lot of food for thought.
For
So
the
anything that struck you, anything that, or anything you want to say, what's on the top of your head, we're gonna start with you.
No, the stones, each of them have different powers, right? Like this, the stones.
The different,
See,
right.
the
Crystals in and of
the
itself,
crystals,
yeah. There is the philosophy that crystals have power.
See,
It's not power, it's energy,
energy.
okay? And each one of them is, the color of it affects it, where it comes from affects it, and so forth. And we use them to represent that energy. Our ancestors used to use crystals, this type of crystal a lot, because it grows a lot in the Caribbean. And when the Spanish came, they said that our people use a stone to clean people. And actually, these things that we're using. Okay. This has certain properties. Now, especially the quartz crystals. Okay. There's energy that comes out of this thing. Okay. It has a charge. Like if you have your watches and all that, they're made from the crystals. That So if you rub, you can actually feel the energy. Okay. Take a feel. And rub it and see, and you're gonna feel it. It has properties, yeah. Raise your shirt up though, so that
Por
you can actually.
encimita, nada
Por
más.
encimita. You feel that? Now, if you do like this, crystal, just do like that, and then go like that. You're gonna feel. Go like that. Now pull back like that. What do you feel? That's the energy. You can't see it, but it's there. Okay? It's actually there. One of the properties that this has, which I have found very useful, is that if I can rub this over a person's body, a person who has a tumor or anything that gives heat out, you pick it up. Okay? It doesn't necessarily heal the tumor, but it picks up that charge. Now, because that's an electrical charge, it might help to shrink it. I don't know. Okay, I'm not that, not. But that's the thing. Okay, and that's what you would use. This is good to heal, and you have to wash these. You got to get that energy and the charge out of it. You have to wash them, and sometimes you put them in salt. What a lot of people do is they put it in especially for the women, they'll put it for the full moon, with the light of the moon, so that it'll get that light. It's a subtle light, but the moon is, the light the moon gets is from the sun. You know that, right? It's from the sun. And so the moon doesn't have a light of its own. Isn't that beautiful? She shines on her own. She doesn't shine on her own. But, use that. So, and the clearer the crystal, the more energy flows through it. So you have a denser, this is more like a glass. Obsidian is more like glass, from volcanic rock. Okay, but the denser the crystal, they say the energy doesn't flow. Let's give that a test. Come on back. You did this one, right? Do it again. See how it feels, and then go like that, and then let's try a denser crystal. Go ahead. Don't be afraid to rub it. And then you feel that energy. Feel it, right? Keep some of that energy, say, keep some of that energy. Exactly. Play with it. Okay. So now that you did that, let's try, okay? Let's try a denser crystal and see if it has the same effect. Rub your hands together. But I want her to rub the crystal. Okay? So now I want to see if you're going to get the same charge or if it's going to be. You tell me.
No.
Keep on. No.
Yeah, I feel it like it's heavier. It's heavier.
Is there a Taino word for crystal, or do you know of any word that?
Siba.
Siba.
Stones or Siba.
Siba stone.
Siba. You felt it, right? And they say color effects. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it's good for you to know that.
Yeah.
And people use it a lot to find, like I said, I had a person once, and She's okay now. And she actually came to me. She wanted what she used to like to come to me a lot of times. She would come to me for me to talk to her about her spiritual situation and so forth, and we would share. And I said to her, well, let me give you a massage and all that and stuff like that. And I use a crystal. And when I kept going like this, the crystal would be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I felt that heat coming out of her, and it was all over her face. And I said to her, is there something wrong with your eye? I mean, is your eye something wrong with this? No, but every now and then my eye just is twitching a lot. I said, well, maybe you should go check it, maybe it's twitching. She went to check it, and sure enough, she had a tumor behind the eye, and she caught it in time enough for them to remove it. It wasn't because I had any magical spiritual power. It was because of the crystal, okay, that got really hot, and I felt that heat. And when I wet my hand like this, it was so hot. But you couldn't tell, and she would, so it's not like, you're Aladdin.
Okay. Question, comment, anything, whatever's on the top of your
Thank you for sharing the meaning behind the 4 directions, and then just explaining it so we can go into like the wisdom of like healing and the clarity that came with each direction. It's honored and Bohio, so that makes it. Thank you for that.
And it's good. I wanted to add to that, I'm glad you asked about that. And that's the Bohio, his way. And like I said before, there are other traditions, and people can use other totems and other things as they understand them. I have a great deal of respect for the indigenous traditions of other people, and so I would say, okay, great, So it's not just that it's that way, but also with those totems, they can also be interchanged. There's other birds also. I like to use the animals and the birds and the things that are known to my island because I understand them. If I go to, let's say, Zimbabwe, and I don't know the energy of the elephants and things like that, I don't want to, use it because not that I disrespect it, but I don't know it. And we need to understand when we do things, why we're doing them, and work with the things that we know. Because the thing about the 4 directions is there is this theory or this story that's been floating around for a long time that and it makes sense, that the people of each direction were given certain wisdoms. Because those of you that have children would understand this. And if you teach someone everything, what happens? They don't remember anything. And then there's also another thing too. When you try to teach someone everything and they think they know it all, what happens then? Another problem. They become very obnoxious, like, I know it all. I'm the all in all. So creation itself, God itself, creation itself, the wisdom of the universe itself, was smart enough to say, don't give that, don't teach him everything. So no one has more power than anybody else. Isn't that an intelligent way of being, So it is said, and I'm not going to vouch for this, but this is something that has been said, but it makes sense, that the people of each direction were given an element to concern themselves with. The people of the East were given the element of air. They were to protect the air and take care of it, that it didn't get polluted, that it didn't get, contaminated. The people, of the West were given the element of water. They were supposed to take care of the water. Do not contaminate the water and know the powers and the secrets of the waters. They were supposed to know how to handle the waters. The people of the North were given the wisdom of the fire. How to take care of the fire. What to do with fire. What are the wisdoms of the fire and how to use it appropriately. And the people of the South were given the wisdom of the earth. how to care for Earth Mother. And why is that story so? It makes a lot of sense. Because if we look at the world today, the reason we're not in harmony is because the peoples of all of these directions are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not taking care of Earth Mother. The people of the air, which China, the East, and all that, they're the biggest polluters on the planet when it comes to the air. They're polluting the air totally. Okay? You go to the people of the West, and they're contaminating all the waters. There's places that had water that are virtual deserts now. The people of the North, which they say, and again, dominant society, okay? Alright? Dominant society today. Because we can't go by colors, but we all know what comes from that way, right? The North. Fire. What did they do with fire?
They burned everybody else.
And built A-bombs. Atomic bombs. Do you know that the first gun was made by a priest? Fire, the wisdom of the fire. And then we have the South. Who's out here? All the indigenous peoples. Take care of the earth. And we don't. So it makes sense to pay attention to those directions and those energies and stuff like that. And bring all those aspects in there. You know, the elements, the colors, energy, all of that. So thank you for that.
Okay.
That's the Bohio.
We'll play that.
I have a question. Just for the tape, what kind of stones did our ancestors use?
Oh, I think we touched on that. We have the crystal mostly that we use a lot of, quartz, okay, which is a quartz crystals. We did the obsidians that were used. We also have a lot of these other types of crystals which are more dense,
Okay.
all right? The dense crystals. I mean, there are a lot in the Caribbean, and we're talking about the Caribbean, because there's crystals that grow all through Central and South America. You know, like they have these beautiful purple things that grow all over the place and stuff like that. And amethyst. And then they have these turquoise. A lot of this turquoise grows in Mexico, southern Mexico, and stuff like that. But in the Caribbean,
Aventurine. It's called
right.
aventurine.
This is centurine. We have a lot of aventurines, and we have a lot of these.
And this is
Okay. And so we use those.
century.
And those are, another thing that you want to keep in mind with the stones is that in spite of the fact that we used what we had, okay, there was, and this is something that's got to be said, you know, we were not so primitive that we did not have exchanges, social exchanges. So people would travel in canoes to other places. I mean, they have found Taino petroglyphs in Georgia. How did they get there? They certainly didn't fly on JetBlue. Okay? So somebody got there, whether it was by foot or whether it was by water. But knowing the Caribbean, you got to go across water. And we were known to have it.
It's the current. They took them all the way,
They didn't swim that way.
the current all the way up to the north.
So they came up there in these giant canoes that you could hold 10 people, 5 people, or maybe even one person who decided. They do it today. Cuba is 90 miles away from Florida. But no one is going to swim 90 miles. No one's going to swim 90 miles. Everybody that's even attempted it today is having problems. I mean, and there's also sharks in those waters and all kinds of things. Okay? So they came, and the Yucatan Peninsula, Veracruz, a couple of miles away from the islands, Colombia. So there was exchange. And you will find artifacts and you will find things. For instance, we have petroglyphs that were found in Vieques that were made from jaguar teeth. We didn't have jaguars in Vieques. So how is it that we have jaguar teeth in Vieques? I want to go a little further than that. tobacco, and this is very interesting. Tobacco comes from our lands, and even the word tobacco comes from our lands. Yet in the lungs of Egyptian mummies, what did they find? How did tobacco get into the lungs of Egyptian mummies in Egypt? There had to be some kind of an exchange. So we can say, yeah, we used these because they were there, and we would use everything that was available to us, but we also had things that we used, okay? Recently I was looking at some pictures, and it is said that there was a particular instrument that was used by the Tainos, which is with a string. And they were detailing it, and when I thought about it, I thought about the berimbau, which is used in Brazil. And I remember a friend of ours, his name is Edwin Seleno, who's a person who's a musician and a drummer. He said, you know, we use the berimbau.
And doesn't it originate in Nigeria?
Huh?
Doesn't it originate in Nigeria?
That's possible. I don't know the origin of it. I do know, well, that stands to reason though. If we use instruments, for instance, the drum with the skin in South America, they really didn't have skin drums. Most of them were wooden drums. So that's another influence that came in when the African slaves were brought in. Okay? When they came. Imagine coming across the ocean in a ship, not knowing the language, not knowing anything.
Can you hold this real quick? I got
Putting all
stuff.
the gory details of how bad it was for them, because you know it was bad. Okay, without all the gory details. Arriving on an island, and you don't know anybody, you don't know anything, the only thing that's similar to you is perhaps the weather. Maybe. And imagine our people when they saw them. Well, I've never seen these people before. Who are these guys? And then looking and saying, well, wait a minute, they got them in chains and stuff. They got them, you know. So something's not right. It looks like they're having a tough time like we are. And so human nature is going to tell you, they're going to try and communicate. And so that's when the exchanges, other exchanges started, you know. Because the Africans who came had to have some wisdoms from where they came from. Their tribal wisdoms. They were used to living out there, you know, as well. They were tribal people. You know, everything that we know didn't exactly come from the Spanish, although we had some things that we didn't know about chickens and all that kind of stuff, and we learned about that, right? Pigs, which she doesn't like, but we had, no? And I guess what I'm trying to say, you know, they keep on saying the world is different today because we have technology and we have TV and all that, but you know what? It wasn't that much different. Push the technology to the side. We had our own technology. We had our own ways of communicating. It was slower, and it wasn't as damaging either. Because if you, please, in gang, they need to get rid of all those telephone towers and all that stuff that's just messing everything up, you know. It wasn't like that. And all those wires, electrical wires that are running all over the place. But we had our own technology and our own way of communicating. So yeah, we used a lot of different stones. We also used a lot of bone. I want you to know we used a lot of bone. Shark bone, shells, wood. Okay? There was a lot of shark bones and things like that we used. There was bone that we used to make a lot of fish bones and stuff to make different necklaces and stuff like that. So we did use that. And I dare to say that probably continue to because we learned how to use beads. When the Spanish came, there's an actual semi, or a figure that was made after we learned about beading. Because we didn't use the same beads. We learned about beading. And we have a long time to learn, and way ahead of our relatives in the north, because the Spanish were in the Caribbean and all over Mexico and all of that, 100 years before the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth Rock. By the time the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth Rock, we were already had missionaries and all kinds of stuff. We already had the Spanish all over the place. So that's another thing that's interesting. So I hope that helped answer your question.
Yes.
Amy, do you have any question, any comments? Dee? No, anything you're taking away from this conversation you want to share?
I think the one thing I wrote down was when you wake up in the blood, to wake up the blood memory of your ancestors chant. You know, that was real. There's a different way of thinking of chanting, because the way that, you know, meditation is being talked about is so Europeanized, right? And it's just like this, you know, you have to go into the state and, you know. But I like that the purpose of it. It's about waking up your DNA and your connection to your ancestors.
Yeah,
It was really
it wakes it up.
I mean, you now you saying that brings up language, which we talked about, knowing your indigenous language, that we were each taught a way to speak to Earth Mother in a particular language, that these languages are being lost, and how we need to pray in those languages, whether it's in indigenous and African or, you know, and that connection and that power of that language that was gifted to us and that's being taken away, that was taken away, almost taken away with Spanish and English. And I think that's also important when we sing and pray.
I'm really glad that you mentioned the language, you know, I mean, I'm so happy that you did that, so I'm really glad because language is an important factor, especially for indigenous nations. In the Tainos, there were words that we did not have. Never mind the words like airplane and elevator and all that. We're not talking about those kind of words, okay? We're talking about words like, we didn't have a word for prison. God said this, we didn't have jails, so we didn't have prisons, okay? So we didn't have a word to describe that. We did not have a word for a devil because we didn't believe in the devil. We didn't have those words, okay? We could not understand the concept of the Christian God, okay? So there were a lot of words that we didn't understand. And I think what the Spanish did when they came was to forbid us from speaking our languages and taking them away from us, because they didn't understand us and they were fearful of us. They were fearful of us. They were so afraid, okay? But when you look at the Spanish language, and you know, they call it the Romance languages, right? The Latins, right? They call it the French. So what? I don't know where the romance comes into those languages.
Romance is for romance.
All right? Because they were violent people. And, I mean, and unless you like being told I love you and have something shoved up your ass, you know what I mean, you've got a problem. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sorry that I used that, you know, particular way of saying it, but really, oh, I love you, but here, you know? So I don't understand the romance part of those languages. And then there were very aggressive languages, the Viking languages, and a conglomeration of languages. We didn't have that kind of aggressiveness in our languages. So we were more of a gentle. Columbus himself wrote in the Chronicles. Columbus himself wrote in the Chronicles. These people are beautiful. They're so gentle, so giving. They own nothing. They give it to you. And their language is so beautiful. It's like the chanting of birds. We didn't have to scream. Suave. So it's important that if we can, whatever we can rescue from our language, but I would think that in any language, and this is from experience, not from thinking, in any language, we try to find the most melodious and harmonious words or sounds to express ourselves and make it soft. You don't need to yell at yourself to wake up memory. You need to be more silent and harmonized. It's like making love. Right? is something so magical and so beautiful about a gentle touch, a gentle word of love, as opposed to, again, dominant society, some of their lovemaking, which is like a war in bed. You're not gonna beat you up. How about a whip? How about to put you in a cage? You know, that abnormal pattern of aggressiveness. And if you look at animals, you'll see that. The lion is ready. Oh. But watch it with its kids, its cubs. Watch what it does with the cubs.
Question, comment,
Like that.
anything. Anything on the top of your head.
I have so many things swimming through my head.
Yeah. That is good. That is good.
First of all, I want to thank you for welcoming me and my children tonight. I am personally still growing in my understanding of our Taino culture. This was like a slap in my face to enter into my 30s and discover there's a whole other part of me that not only did I not know, like my elders did not know, because I've asked them and they just give me that WTF kind of face. So thank you all for that. I'm having many thoughts. We touched on the stones, which I've always found interesting that my youngest has a habit of randomly picking up shells or rocks, or it's my friend, and it's starting to resonate with me. You spoke on blood memories, and just the scent of the incense pulls something through me that I can't even articulate, but there's a comfort of I know this. And we spoke on the energies and the harshness, and so much of what comes naturally to my children have been suppressed, that at this point personally, how do you push it out without being harsh with myself? Please stop pulling my hair. Thank you. Again, just so many different things. I find myself ravenous for information. And it's funny that you very specifically said you can't give someone everything. But there's still that thirst and there's still that hunger to not understand, but really grasp a comprehension of why was this done to me? And it's not even like us. I feel it personally. Why was this done to me? And I know of my European ancestry, and just out of common sense and looking at historical facts, I can understand the African ancestry that I have running through me. And then there's that missing piece, and I'm like lost and confused and excited all at the same time. And for me, this is mending that torn blanket for me. And again, I can only say thank you for just welcoming us and allowing us to sit and absorb all of the information from everyone.
Does any of the children have anything that they want to share? Anything you're taking away from this? Young man in the back? Anything?
I know she wants to share a dance with us later.
Okay, you still share. Huh? Okay. Ms. Leila, you have any questions, any concerns, anything floating in your head after this presentation?
I'm so tired, I can't even think. No, but I thank you for coming.
Okay. Okay, so I want to really thank you and let people know that this is just the beginning. we will find another second Sunday for that, Saturday for conversation with Inaru, so that we could gather her wisdom and bathe in it, right? And bathe in it. That's how I feel. A little shower of wisdom and a lot of powerful thinking. And it's very important that we begin to sit at the foot of our elders to learn the teachings, the wisdom that have been passed down from generation to generation, so that we could be the powerful people that we are. And so we don't have a date yet, but we'll be back. I want to, because I didn't introduce that we're in the Ta-Merri temple, a space for wisdom and knowledge for people of color, going back to the teachings of the Egyptians, the original Ta-Merri, and beyond. So, and there's different programs here that you could come to. Every day there is something happening. There are cards and brochure in the back so that you could look. You could always call and say, what's going on? I have some time. So keep that in mind. I'm going to pass the basket around and ask for donations. Whatever you can give, Lance, just, will be appreciated, even if it's $1, because it takes money to run a space like this, okay? And Earth Mother gave birth to herself. The Earth Mother that is represented here as Atabei. And in giving birth to herself, she gave birth to everything on this planet. And you look at all, even the gods, right? So if you look at all creation stories, they're all woman-based because of the power of women to give birth. So just keep that in mind. So even if we look at the Jewish, Christian mythology, right? They have similar, because they all come from the original peoples of the Middle East, who worshipped the Earth Mother, and who basically were killed. Women have been historically killed by the millions, not billions, throughout history, because of their power. As Inaru talked to us about the ability to represent all the elements.
Well, I guess I just want to say it was good to be here. It's a nice space. I like the energy in the space. When I walked in, I like the energy of the space. And that says a lot to me. I like it, feel like, I felt comfortable. I like the altar. Well, first of all, because I love the ocean blue. And second of all, because I feel a connection to that. There is a definite connection that I have to that. We'll talk about some other things, but I have connected to that. And not from a religious perspective, because I'm not I have religions and men. We're not connected to religions per se. Right? And so I like the space. That's why I recognized it right away. I said, oh, yeah, hey. But I think it's what she said. And he spoke about the Kemetic, and I have some friends that are Kemetics, and I had a beautiful experience with them many, many years ago as well. As a matter of fact, the lady that was my friend actually healed herself from cancer using the teachings that the kinetics. She read from a certain book and so forth. So there's a lot of power, and a lot of wisdom and things that we still don't know. And like he said, all of the principles are more or less the same, but it depends on where you are, where you were placed on the planet. And that would happen even today. If they took you out of 2850 and moved you to 95 on 196th Street, what would you have to do? Move your stuff and adapt to that other apartment. You'd have to do it, right? Because the kitchen wouldn't be in the same place. The door might be facing in another direction. You get hooked up, and then you know that place. Now you know two places. You know that one, and you know that one. Well, that's what it's about. And when people were taken from Africa and bought as slaves, they had to adapt. They had no choice. What was sad was they were removed from their culture, from their teachings. And that's what dominant society did. When your culture is destroyed, who are you? That's the sad part. You remove people from their culture, you deny them their language and the things they know. And so I hope you take that with you when you go out there, you know, and you talk to people, and you know, understand that culture is important. You need to, you know, learn from and stuff like that. Take that with you, and hopefully at some other point we might be able to talk about some other things in more depth. Because I just gave you that little synopsis as best as I could from what I know. I will tell you this. You can read 100 books. My grandfather did not know how to read. He never learned how to read. Couldn't read a lick. But he was as indigenous as he could be, and he had a lot of wisdom. And because of the fact that he didn't know how to read, I never really knew who the heck Panay was until I was grown up. My grandfather didn't know Panay, but he knew how to be an indigenous person. He knew everything. So when I read Panay, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, see, I can't see. Yeah, oh, really? But as much as you read about Tainos, read all you want, you're not going to find the Taino in the book. Not in there. Just go with that. That'll leave you that. You're not going to find the Taino. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to love everybody stand up. Yes, Tom, you ready? You got a question. Okay.
And I just forgot what it said.
Okay. You ready for the dance?
You ready to show you dance? Shadow dance?
Greetings. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Vanessa Inaru, Elder Vanessa Inaru, and I'm one of the grandmothers on the Grandmothers Council of the Bohio Atabei.
Okay, so we are here at the event in the Ta-Merri temple. If you can briefly speak about tonight's event.
Well, the event tonight that I was invited to, and was an honor to be here, was to talk about using indigenous wisdoms, specifically Caribbean indigenous wisdom, in today's world, and how we can apply those wisdoms to the social justice in our world today, how we live every day today. And so that's what I was here to do. Hopefully I got that message across.
So next question I would like to ask is for people in our Taino community, what is social justice?
Social justice. Social justice is a big topic. Social justice can range from anything from how we relate to each other in our communities, how we take care of Earth Mother, how we handle problems and situations when they arise, how we see authority, and how we handle our relationships to authority. And given the situation that we're not living like our ancestors live, how do we apply the wisdoms of our traditions to today's world, right? We come from a totally different type of community setup, and that setup is so different from what we're living today. So that social justice is a broad topic. I believe that it was used just to give a generalization of what we're trying to do, but really what it comes down to is how do we apply our wisdoms, our teachings, our ancient teachings, that and these teachings come from a society that has been on the planet for thousands of years, like many other indigenous cultures. And indigenous cultures around the world have so much to offer, to the world today in wisdoms. We may not have the knowledge of the technology and things like that, but we had our own technologies. We had our own way of dealing with the problems that would arise in a community. We had our own ways with dealing with all kinds of social issues, right? Anywhere between, I'm almost positive. Today we have the lay and lesbian. Let's take that for an example. Lay and lesbian. Well, we had our own way of dealing with that. And how do we apply that to now? Especially in a community, or our communities, where we didn't have prisons and we didn't have the type of isms you have today. So it's a big field.
What I would like to ask you is, what is your experience from the Taino movement then and to currently now at the present? What do you see when you were coming up, and what do you see now?
The Taino resurgence movement, I would say that, first of all, some of us already knew we were Indios. Not necessarily Taino, because the word wasn't used, or the terminology wasn't used. You were Indian, right? And some of us grew up on the islands, depending on what island you grew up in. And we grew up doing things that we didn't necessarily consider Indian, but they were. And we came across other people as well through time. And the Taino resurgence movement, which was started around the early 90s here in New York and some of the other islands, kind of brought us together. That's what it did. That was a way of bringing our people together, because we were so scattered. We didn't live like I said before, we didn't live like our ancestors did. We live in a different world altogether, and some of us live in Ohio, some of us live in California, so we were scattered all over the place. But there's that calling of the blood, that feeling that, you know what, I'm not whole, there's something missing, I want to learn. And it brought us together, and that's what the Taino resurgence movement did. It brought us together. It started in the early 90s. It's grown. There's a lot of different groups and a lot of different organizations and so forth, and a lot of them operate in their own way, but basically they're all trying to do the same thing: learn the culture, learn how to learn how to appreciate that wisdom, learn how to use it, and hopefully make the world a better place with that knowledge, okay, and make their lives better as well. I'm a firm believer in that if we apply some of the wisdoms of our ancestors, that we will make a better world, not only for ourselves but for others. And it's a responsibility that we have to learn how to, be better people, and also be more human. Humanity's forgetting how to be human. So the Taino movement has helped. It's helped a lot of people. It's not a religious movement. It's not like a religious movement. It's not like a born again this or born again that. It is a movement that reteaches you how to live in harmony with your environment and with everything that's around you. Right? Maybe a little bit more difficult to learn it today because we live like in steel cities and cement, whatever. But we still can connect ourselves to the environment, because most of our teachings come from our environment and from what we learned from our environment. We lived in a more natural environment, of course, okay? But it teaches us how to look at our environment, to learn from it, and to use that in our everyday life as a way of us walking on this planet, okay? Being better humans. We're a species, like every species on Earth. We're a human species. Okay. And the human species needs to remember that the human species needs to relate to other species. We need to be able to relate to other living things. And we won't be knocking down the trees and killing them for nothing. We won't be, overfishing the waters and killing animals for sport and things like that. We need to remember who we are. We're a species, and we need to relate to everything that's alive on the planet. We need to learn it, so the Taino movement can help you do that, especially if you come from the Caribbean, because it's already been proven that memory is written in people's DNA. So you may remember some of that stuff, okay? It's important to, reconnect to that. And I would say that's good for all indigenous peoples who don't know. Unfortunately, a lot of indigenous peoples are more fortunate because they're still living within their environment, living within their culture, more than we have. But doesn't mean we can't rescue it. Doesn't mean we can't go back and find out what it is and who we are. It makes us whole.
So, the question I'd like to ask in closing, what message do you have for the young women coming up that are searching to realign with their culture and their ancestors?
That's a good question. Well, I'll tell you, the message that I have for our young women, that's an important message, is not to just reconnect with your culture, but also to go back and reclaim your power as a woman. Reclaim the wisdom of woman, right? Be proud of who you are and know that you are the givers of life, and that's a very important thing. You are the givers of life, so you need to go back and learn to respect yourselves, learn to love yourselves, right? Learn to give of that. We are natural nourishers. Learn to do all of those things that you will put here, or creation put you here as a beautiful woman, a beautiful giver of life. Give that. Our young women need to go back and learn to redo that again, right? Be the beautiful women that they were meant to be. And that takes a lot of, that might mean changing the way you look at things. It might mean changing the way you address all kinds of issues and stuff like that. I think one of the saddest things, at least for me, is to watch our young women lost in the plastic Barbie doll syndrome.
That's a good analogy.
That is like the worst thing that can happen. Because you lose yourself in that. That's not you. You are not a Barbie doll. That's not who you are. You are a giver of life, a nourisher. And it's also important because it helps you, it will help us to help our communities and help our men so that we can have the balance and the harmony, okay? And specifically, as a woman, you have a role. Embrace it. Love it. And males have a role. Embrace it. Love it. That is balance. That's harmony. So go out there and do that. Be the woman you're supposed to be. And I think that's important. And respect yourself, of course. Value yourself. Love yourself. And stuff like that. And try to get away from that Barbie doll syndrome, whatever you can, We are bombarded by that every day, okay? Every day. It's sad to see that some of our young women don't value themselves, unless they look like a model or unless they're wearing, carrying a Gucci a pocketbook and things like that. And we need to get away from all of that. That is, that is something that has hurt us, okay? We need to connect with ourselves.
And in closing, where can they learn more about El Bohio Atabei?
We have a blog. It's Bohio Atabei and Bohio Atabei, which is BOHIOATABEI at .blogspot.com. Okay, .blogspot.com. So we have a blog, and you can connect via the blog, and sometimes I post the events that we're going to do and things like that. Or you can connect with some of the grandmothers also. Their contact information is on there. So there's the contact information. Actually, that is all we have. We just have the blog. And sometimes I will post occasionally on Facebook or something if we're having an event or one of the grandmothers will know about it. The Bohio Atabei is specifically for women, and it's a way of us coming together as sisters and sharing and learning from and with each other. Okay, so that's what it's about. So it's bohioatabei.blogspot.com. We have an email which is bohioatabei@aol.com. You can also write to us. bohioatabei@aol.com.
And with that, what I'd like to say is give thanks and thank you for allowing me to take the time to have this discussion with you.
Okay, yeah, man.